You know, what I want to do, Dr. Drew, is empower people to speak up when they feel violated the way I was. You know, these pat-downs are so different from TSA agent to TSA agent, from airport to airport. And after speaking to the supervisor, you know, she was telling me that the reason for that is because TSA agents don't feel comfortable giving the pat-downs. So, you know, I think there has to be a way that you know, TSA can protect us or, you know, screen us properly that doesn't violate our rights. You know, we shouldn't have to give up our rights in the name of safety. And, you know, if the screenings are different from TSA agent to TSA agent, you know, I asked myself the question, well, how effective are these screenings? Are they actually protecting us?
Susie, you bring up I think this is actually a bigger conversation about how much we want government crawling into our private spaces in many aspects of our life. This is sort of a metaphor for that. But I want to look at what you said on YouTube. Watch this.
I'm crying because I'm just really, really upset that as an American, I have to go through this. And I do feel violated. I didn't think that I would when I had to opt out of the machine, but I completely feel violated. This woman, she touched my vagina 4 times because she went up my leg, up both legs, from behind, and then turned around and did it in the front. So that was my experience this morning at Dallas Airport.
Susie, I don't want to re-traumatize you. Can you talk about this experience a little bit? What did you
Sure.
Did you object while it was happening, or were you just sort of stunned and frozen at the time?
I was definitely stunned and frozen because I had just had a TSA I was traveling on business, and I live in Los Angeles. So on my way out of Los Angeles, I was chosen for a pat down. And so I had a pat down, and I remember thinking, you know, I've heard so many stories online and on the news, and it wasn't that bad. You know, it was fine. And then on my way back, and when I was connecting in Dallas, and, you know, again, I had to get a pat down, I remember thinking, well, the one at LAX wasn't that bad. This is going to be a piece of cake. Let's just do it so I can get to my gate. And this one was completely different. You know, the woman at LAX didn't actually touch, you know, my private area down there. And, you know, she only went up my leg twice, like each leg once, which seemed sufficient to me. The woman in Dallas did each leg twice, from behind and from the front. And each time with the top of her hand, you know, just made contact. And to me, that's really violating.
Were you wearing a dress?
I was just frozen.
Were you wearing a dress?
I was wearing leggings.
Leggings. Yeah.
No, I was wearing leggings.
And
yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, frozen, like scared, right?
I was extremely scared, and you know, furthermore, I know my rights, my constitutional rights, and this is a direct violation of our Fourth Amendment rights, and that's a huge problem.
And why were you selected for a pat down? I mean, let me just say, personally, I must fit.
Yeah.
So if they're doing any profile, I must fit some profile out there, because literally I get patted down and selected, all pulled out of line all the time, and sometimes they know me by name and still are busy patting me down. How does that work? How does that work that you can know who somebody is personally, you know, and oh, dude, come on, I got to pat you down. Why were you patted down?
Right. Well, you know, I saw 2 lines. I noticed when I was at DFW that there were 2 lines. One that was going through the body scanner, and the other was just going through the metal detector. And the line for the metal detector was actually longer, but I waited in that line. My husband and I were traveling together, and we both waited in the longer line because we've read about the dangerous, you know, how radiation accumulates in your body over the course of your life, and it's dangerous, and we do travel a lot. I have no choice but to travel for my job. I'm an actor and I'm a host. And I said, you know, I'm not going to go through those machines. I'm not going to expose myself to additional radiation.
I see.
And so I chose the line. Yeah, I chose the line with the metal, that was just going through the metal detector. And when I got to the front, the TS agent that was there said, you know, ma'am, can you please step into this line? And I said, well, sir, I've been waiting in this line, which has been longer, you know, for the purpose of, because I've been seeing everybody going through the metal detector. And he's like, well, I'm asking you to come in this line now. And I said, well, I don't want to go through that machine because it's unhealthy and, you know, it's dangerous. And he said, well, if you choose to opt out, you're going to get patted down. And I said, that's fine. I will get patted down because I'm
All
not
right.
going to go through
Well,
the machine.
I-
So that's where it all started.
I get it. You didn't fit a profile like me. But let me go to what the TSA had to say about this. They have actually a pretty clear statement, and here's what they say. We have reviewed this passenger's screening experience and found that the officer followed proper procedures. We greatly appreciate the cooperation and ask for the understanding of the American people as we seek to move toward a more risk-based, intelligence-driven approach to security. Boy, that's a loaded, I'm dying to know what that even means, but that's grist for another conversation. We cannot forget that terrorists will continue to try to manipulate societal norms to evade detection. We wished we lived in a world where security procedures at airport weren't necessary, but that just isn't the case. So what do you say to that? We got about a minute left, Susie. How do you respond to that statement?
Yeah, well, I appreciate their effort in trying to help us, and trying to protect us and, trying to keep us safe. However, they are violating our constitutional rights. They're touching us inappropriately. And, like I said, our Fourth Amendment right is just, I take our rights and our freedoms very seriously, and I feel like it's a slippery slope. And there has to be, with the level of intelligence in this country, we have to come up with a more effective, less invasive form of screening passengers. Because, touching children inappropriately, Dr. Drew, what does that do psychologically to a kid when, growing up, a parent tells them, nobody's allowed to touch you this way. But now, there's an exception to that rule. What are you supposed to tell your child?
Well,
and I've been getting hundreds of messages from people with children who are now choosing not to travel for that reason. They just don't want to have to go through that with
Susie,
their child and watch their kid.
Important to be thinking about. Really, you bring up a really important issue, and I think it's actually a bigger discussion about how far we want government climbing into our lives. I really do think that you bring up very important here and something for us all to think about and to talk to our kids about.